Welcome to the Wealth Podcast, Off With Your Coat, a podcast on women's health and wellness where we flip the script and ditch the surface level chatter. We need to ask the real questions. Let's get back to storytelling and back to basics to help us uncover how to set ourselves up for true health and wellness and pass it on. I'm Kat Duff, founder of Gen Well, the women's health advocacy brand building wealth, the intersection of health and wellness. Some days it's me and a doctor, coat off, talking about what really matters. No fluff, no filters. Other days, it's East meets West, trading tools, not punches, to help move women's health forward. We're building generational wealth. Come with us. Coats off, let's go. Welcome back to Off With Your Coat. Hi, ladies. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Sarah, a functional nutritionist who helps women find out what's really causing their health issues, especially when they've been told their labs are normal, but they still don't feel like themselves. That will always just drive me absolutely bananas, the normal labs comment. With 90% of autoimmune issues affecting women, you're going to want to listen to this. Sarah's path into this work has been deeply personal. After struggling with Hashimoto's, gut issues, fatigue, brain fog, she discovered firsthand how nutrition and lifestyle could transform her health. We always say it, back to the basics. That experience inspired her to build a practice focused on helping others uncover what's really behind symptoms like inflammation, hormone imbalances, digestive issues, low energy, really all the things we're constantly talking about. So today we're talking about why so many people fall through the cracks in conventional healthcare, what root cause really means, is that a visceral reaction for some people, and the small changes that can actually make a surprisingly big difference. Sarah, Off With Your Coat. Sarah, I'm so thrilled to have you. Thank you for coming on Off With Your Coat.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here with you.
I am psyched to dive into all things functional nutrition, autoimmune. There's so much we have to uncover, but first I want to get under the hood. So what is something that has surprised you about your own health journey as a woman, or maybe like an aha moment that you've had along the way?
I think the biggest thing has definitely been how much simpler it is than we make it out to be. Like, it doesn't have to be this crazy, wild, outlandish thing to heal. It's really just these simple things that we can implement into our life that really compound over time and really help support our health from, just the root and the foundation of our health.
And so how did you get to that conclusion of, was it you trying all of the things to help
Yeah.
yourself, or how did you sort of arrive at that?
Yeah, I think it really was like trial and error just with myself. It was like, doing all the extremes. It was like seeing everything on the internet and being like, this must be the answer because it just feels like I have to put in this amount of effort to feel better. So it was just me doing all of these extremes, really restrictive dieting, really intense exercise routines, and then feeling worse or just having dysregulation set in for me to notice that, hey, it's actually probably not all of this. It's probably me just, eating balanced meals, getting outside, moving my body. It definitely helped, like going back into the research, going back to school and just seeing like, oh, this is how our body works. Like, these are the pathways and this is how I support it. So that definitely helped. And it was definitely just trial and error on my part to understand how it's the best process it.
I mean, the extremes are real and they're rampant, especially now. And because we don't know about our bodies, as you're saying, you went back to school for it, we're grasping at straws. So everyone's like, we have to do cycle syncing. There's no other way to work out, or we only eat protein and no fiber. I think we've it's so interesting also like in the workout space of, I feel like now it's shifted to, strength training, or you just do Pilates and everyone's like, well, you can't just do Pilates because you're not building strength. When it's just go back to basics, movement,
Yeah.
filtered water,
Yeah.
great nutrition.
Yeah.
So was there something about your own health? I know that we had talked Hashimoto's. Like, can you give me a little bit of your backstory on when you were diagnosed,
Yeah.
if that sort of led to your interest in the functional medicine space?
Yeah, absolutely. I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's when I was about like 14. It runs in my family. So like my mom has it, my aunts have it. So it was just, my mom was like, you should just she just wanted to get her daughters checked out just to see if we had it, and we did. And when you're that young, you don't really take anything seriously or you don't really think much of it. But it
Mhm.
wasn't until I went away to college where, my diet was terrible. I wasn't sleeping, that everything just kind of came right to the surface. Like I had
Mhm.
all of the symptoms. Fatigue, brain fog. I had these like weird muscle cramps all over my body. And then I would like come home from school. I'd set up like tons of doctor's appointments and I kind of just got the same runaround. Like, yeah, your TSH isn't there yet for us to put you on medication. We can put you on medication if you want, but like, that's about it. And like, bye, see you later. It was just really discouraging. And I think one of the things I definitely have learned through going through this is the importance of advocating for yourself. Like, you know your body better than anyone else. Like, no doctor, like, even if it was like a Hashimoto specialist, can tell you how you feel and if what you feel is normal. Your symptoms are such a guide for indicating to you what your health is and where you're at with your health. So that was definitely just like the peak for me, just getting really interested in my health because I was like, this is not working and this just can't be my life. I just can't feel like this forever. There has to be some type of answer here.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, that's how the system was built, right? It's like the reactive
Yeah.
care of, oh, we'll just wait for you to get sicker so then we can treat it.
Exactly.
How about some intervention? How about some proactivity, which, is
Yeah.
definitely coming to the surface now. But so okay, so from 14 you're diagnosed. Did you end up going on thyroid? What was that care process like?
So I didn't go on any medication because my TSH was still okay. My thyroid antibodies were elevated though. This
Mhm.
is something else I just mentioned to everyone is like, if you go to the doctor, always ask for a full thyroid panel and check your antibodies because
Mhm.
that's a good indicator to see like how the Hashimoto's is progressing and how inflammatory the attack is on your thyroid. But when you go to the doctor, you sometimes have to like fight and push to get those checked, even if you have it. Like I would have to argue and check. So that's definitely something I would recommend for everyone just to get a full thyroid panel and understand where you're at there.
Yeah, I actually postpartum with my daughter, I would say like maybe 6 months after. I was going to a functional medicine practitioner that I hadn't seen before, and she was testing my full thyroid panel, and I knew that from postpartum with my son of like, okay, you need to look at the whole picture. I
Yeah.
still don't understand why
Yeah.
it's not a general baseline. So I think for all of our listeners, always ask to push for all the entire picture, and that includes the antibodies. For our listeners, that's the thyroglobulin and
Peroxidase.
thank you. So my thyroglobulin was elevated,
Yeah.
um, and I was just like, "Fuck."
Yeah.
I was like, "What does that mean? I have Hashimoto's, like hypothyroidism? Where are we going with this?" And so it's interesting, and this is where I think it's key to find the right providers, and we'll get into functional medicine in a moment, but the provider that was new to me was like, "Okay, here's what to take right now. You're still breastfeeding, but
Yeah.
we really wanna" we did a gut test, and she was like, "It looks like you have some dysbiosis in your gut.
Yeah.
And so we'll clean that up and hopefully that will bring the levels down." And I was like, okay, that makes sense to me in just like how I've been, educating myself. Obviously the gut is not a perfect science, but
Yeah.
we can sort of try to eliminate what we can. And we also were going to eliminate gluten for a little bit. So anyhow, I took that information to my naturopath of whom I trust implicitly. And she was like, "You can't take these things. You're breastfeeding. Like,
Yeah.
why would she give you things knowing that you're breastfeeding?" And she was like, "We can do something gentle." Like,
Yeah.
she ended up giving me allicin, the derivative of garlic, which is, antibacterial. We did some oh no, we didn't do digestive enzymes. We did one other thing, but really gentle. And honestly, in a month, my levels went down like 20 points.
Right?
So the net for me is always trust your gut. Even if you're going to someone, I feel like it's so divisive, like traditional medicine and the
Yeah.
functional or natural space. And you still have to advocate for yourself no matter who you're talking to. And like if something feels off, you have to push back.
Yeah.
So in that scenario for you with Hashimoto's, so had you ever made it to the point where you needed to go on like synthetic hormones, or You tell me more about that.
Yeah, so my TSH never kind of reached that level. And then that's when I started really kind of just getting into nutrition. And I
Mhm,
found Dr. Terry Walls, who is just like a pioneer in the MS world. And she
mhm,
created this book, The Autoimmune Protocol. And her protocol is very restrictive.
mhm.
The thing I just want to like make a note about these protocols is like when you give a protocol for everyone, they kind of strip away any food that could have any impact on your immune function. And some of it is very healthy foods, like nightshades and legumes and
Mhm.
lentils, like dairy, like these are essential and part of a healthy diet, but some people are reactive to it. But I did feel much better just going on this diet, becoming a lot more conscious of what I was eating, like reading labels, eating more balanced meals. But then I felt better and the symptoms started to go down, but
Mhm.
then it's just food phobia really set in. It was just like
Mm.
this. I was so scared to eat out. If I ever had any gluten exposure, I would just like spiral. Like,
Yeah.
and you just become so fixated on, oh my God, what's going wrong with my health? Not like, oh, I feel so much better. It's just like every little thing just would trigger me and just set me off into a spiral. But it did, like, it brought down my antibody levels, my symptoms did go down, but then the nervous system dysregulation set in. And that's when I really just started just going back to like the basics and understanding, okay, like what is actually driving this? And I think what's frustrating with autoimmune or any chronic inflammatory condition is that there's not just one answer and there's no playbook, right? It's not like everyone with Hashimoto's has like this is a playbook.
Mhm.
This is how you get rid of it. It's very multi-organ specific. Like it's your immune system. Your immune system is tied to every single organ system in your body. And you really have to understand the landscape in which this disease has occurred. And there's like this popular saying with autoimmune disease or any disease, it's like genetics loads the gun, but your environment pulls the trigger. So it's really understanding like what contributors in your environment led to this. And that can be super overwhelming because like there's just so much to consider. But I always tell people just like what worked for me is just doing one thing at a time. I always
Mhm.
just like chip away at things, right? And similar to your story, like we start with the least invasive, safest things, which is just food. It's just incorporating the right food to help balance your blood sugar, to help support your liver, to help support your gut health. And there's so much overlap between what everything needs. So you're just kind of slowly chipping away at things, helping to improve your blood sugar, getting nutrients to support your liver, feeding your gut with all of these beneficial, probiotic, prebiotics, polyphenols. Before you even do like the antimicrobial treatment, I would say replenish. And I love this concept where the gut can, the good bacteria can crowd out the bad bacteria. So I'm always like, let's get you a good foundation before we even start off with this heavy antimicrobial treatment, which, is necessary in some points, but sometimes you could just crowd it out and you can just replenish and feel better that way.
Yeah. I mean, the environment is so interesting to look at. And so my son actually, maybe I was telling you this, but he had strep induced psoriasis. And so they were like, well, he probably has a gene, like it's genetic somewhere. And I was like, it's my husband, not me,
Yeah.
where the strep just put his, apparently it is common in kids,
Yeah.
where it just put his immune system into overdrive. So the poor thing now has, is it gutate? How do you say it? Psoriasis. So it's
Yeah.
in his scalp really badly and then like a little bit on his body. But so I started him with a functional medicine practitioner and looking at his gut because I'm like, how do we just calm everything first?
Yes.
Focusing on food. And now we're starting to do just like gentle immune support, all of that. But it's for me as someone who needs to know why, I
Yeah.
think it's really frustrating in like both of our scenarios. So talk to me how with autoimmune specifically and other conditions, like why functional medicine and how does functional medicine address autoimmune in a way that traditional medicine doesn't?
Yeah. So with functional medicine, and it really looks to understand, like they always say the root cause, but it's really the environment. Like your
Hmm.
body is an ecosystem. You have your blood sugar, your liver, your gut, your gut brain connection, the circadian rhythm, your mitochondria. It's this environment that's tightly linked together. So I think that's one thing to point out is that, you know, you have thyroid issues, you go to your endocrinologist, and then you have your GI, but like 70 to 80% of your immune system is in your gut, and there's like no one's talking there. So
Mhm.
I think that's important. But functional medicine really looks at improving and giving you a really good foundation. So no disease, or like it's really hard for disease to thrive in a body where everything is really working well, supported. There's no nutrient deficiencies. There's nothing like mercury, heavy metal overload, or MCAS. So it's really looking at the environment that this disease is occurring in and looking to help support that environment so disease can thrive in your body.
That makes sense. And going back to like the traditional system, it is so hard because it is so siloed. Like the endocrinologists are not speaking to the folks over here, and no one in that space is really looking at the gut
Yeah,
within that full picture. And again, going back to saying, the gut isn't a perfect science yet, but
right.
there are still some signals that we could be gathering from that are really useful. Have a lot of friends in the space that are very triggered by the word root cause.
Yeah.
And I think it's because the thought is there's no root cause of everything, right? But like to your point, everything is symbiotic, it's working together. So I
Yeah.
like how you phrased that of it's your environment, not necessarily like one thing that is spearheading
Yes.
all.
Yes. And I think that word is, I mean, it's triggering for me because it kind of makes it, there's
Yeah.
one,
Yeah.
that's it. Like, that's the key. Like, like for so long, everyone was like, heavy metals, that's the driver. Like, go get checked. You fix that, everything is fixed. And
Mhm,
there's no, like, one answer. It's not like,
mhm.
functional medicine has figured it out, and it's like, you get this $400 gut test, and we'll figure out exactly what's wrong with you, we'll fix it, and you're done for life, like,
All
you're
of it.
good.
You'll be cancer free.
Yeah.
You just have to take supplements, 70
Yeah,
supplements.
and it's like the golden ticket, and we've figured it all out, and
Yeah.
it really it's not that at all. It's really just supporting the environment.
Mhm.
I think with like traditional conventional medicine, they're really just fighting against the insurance companies. Like they have 5 minutes with an individual. You can't figure out anything. Like the
Mhm.
only thing they can do is order some lab works that's associated with whatever condition you're coming in for and say, yes, we have something for you, or no, we don't have a medication for this. And so I think, conventional medicine definitely has its spot when it comes to diagnosing, when it comes to acute care. But yeah, I think they don't give it the tools to actually diagnose people and provide preventative medicine and, help to fix the environment that the disease is occurring in.
Yeah. And so why functional nutrition versus, culinary medicine? Like how does that differ and why did you specifically go down the rabbit hole of functional nutrition?
Yeah, so I had on my health journey, I just started listening to Mark Hyman's podcast and Root
Mhm.
Health, and they would just have all of these different practitioners come on it. And the thing I really, really appreciated was how nuanced they were with their approach, which was so refreshing because for so long I was like, would go down these rabbit holes. Was it's got to be this. This is,
Mhm.
they said it's mold that's causing autoimmune disease. So just would go down this. And they said it was food sensitivity. So I just cut out gluten, dairy, legumes, corn. So functional medicine was a lot more nuanced. And I really liked how they just spoke about the biology of how things work and how we can support it through nutrient deficiencies, through helping to balance your blood sugar. And it was just these like small incremental changes that felt good to me, like made me feel better, but also just were easy to adapt into my life. Like
Mhm.
more movement throughout the day, taking a 10-minute walk after eating, like I felt better. It was very easy to do. And it improved my blood sugar. So it was really cool just to see how nuanced and how it just kind of went back to the science and the biology. And it was just like back to the basics, It was kind of stripping away all of these like one answer things and just going back to the science and the environment. And it was very personalized to the individual. So they'd always say like, it could work for one person, it might not work for another. So, yeah, I think I just really appreciated the nuanced approach to it.
Yeah. I will also add, I've had several friends that have done some of these, direct to consumer functional medicine labs where They're given a generic protocol. I have a dear friend that has Hashimoto's, and she was trying to uncover what was happening. And she sent me what she was given via email. And I was like, this is literally, there's no nuance to
Yeah.
this. It
It's like,
is could be for anyone. So how can women find the right practitioners or like do their due diligence with some of these tests, even if it's, Mark Hyman's Function Health or something like that, to make sure, like, what are those guidelines of like, it has to have ABC for it to be able to be focused on you personally?
yeah. I think anytime you go to see a practitioner, you just have to really ask, like, will this be personalized to me? Not just to my own biology, but to my lifestyle. Like a big pillar for me is sustainability because I've done, like the autoimmune protocol diet. And yes, it can be effective and helpful in reducing inflammation, supporting your body, but it is
Mhm,
not sustainable. Like
mhm.
it takes a lot of time to prep, to cook, you know, very fear mongering sustainability. So you really have to meet with someone and ask those questions like, will you be personalizing this to my dietary, my preferences, my dietary needs, but also my lifestyle? Like what if you're someone who works in healthcare and you work night shifts? You can't meal prep or like you don't have time to sit down and eat meals. So really asking those questions and just asking them about their approach. These functional tests, they are super helpful. They can provide valuable insights, but it's never what I start off with. If you can just help someone fix their blood sugar regulation, fix nutrient deficiencies, support their gut, get the right food and nutrients in to support their liver, get some movement in. And if that person still feels really bad or their symptoms are still persisting, then it's worth investing in a test like that. But that's one thing. Another thing is if someone has like a protocol or some type of cleanse, I would say
Mm.
kind of like just,
That's my trigger word, the
yeah,
cleanse.
and just like wait. I
Uh-huh.
would say just like understand like is the liver supported before you give it a cleanse, because a lot of these cleanses and liver protocols, they'll upregulate like phase 2 of your liver detoxification without supporting phase 1. And then that leads to a lot of oxidative stress in the body and inflammation. And people have like these, symptoms where they're like fatigued and and they're like, the cleanse is working, like my body's detoxing. And I'm like, it's also really increasing all of this oxidative stress and inflammation in your body. What's
Right.
really important is getting your liver set up so you can properly detoxify.
Mhm.
Then, if you need a more intense protocol, at least your liver is supported and has all the tools it needs to actually properly detoxify and get rid of things. It's not
Mhm.
just upregulating one part of it and then creating all of this inflammation as a result of it because you're not supporting your ecosystem.
That's a great point. Like, just because you're on the toilet all day, you're getting it all out,
Doesn't
you need to replace the good bacteria.
exactly.
I wanna go back for a moment to
Yeah.
when you were saying, the genetics load the gun, but your environment, what is it? What did you say?
I will pull the trigger.
The environment pulls the trigger. The genetics load the gun, the environment pulls the trigger.
Yeah.
So, in your practice, is it fair to say that, folks should be getting genetic tests, or does it really not matter because you're treating how it's manifesting?
Yeah, I don't think it's important to get genetic
Mhm.
testing done. I think sometimes, a lot of times, it can create a lot of anxiety. Like people are like,
Mm,
"My God, I have the MTHFR gene. I'm screwed." And so I think it can create a lot of anxiety. I do think for some people who are just like, I want to know because I need to see the data. So it gives me the motivation to do this. I'm like,
mhm,
I understand, then you should do it. But if for most people, I think if you just really educate them and help them in understanding how to support their body,
mhm,
even if you have a genetic, disposition to an autoimmune disease or something, you're protected and it doesn't change the intervention. I always say testing is only important if it's going to change the intervention.
mm,
That's why I'm a believer when it comes to testing for nutrient deficiencies because we want to see, are you deficient? And then we're going to either dietarily or supplement, like get your levels up. But
mhm,
these genetic tests with these like functional tests, they're just not always necessary because it's like we're going to do this intervention to support your body regardless. Is this genetic test actually going to help you figure something out? So, yeah, it is nuanced, but I do know some people who are like, I need to see the data for me to actually be motivated to make these changes. And for those people, I'm like, yes, I understand.
Yeah. I think that's a lot of women too. I mean, I think we do better when we understand the why. Like,
Yeah.
why do we need to take this? Why is this going to help my bone health in,
Yes.
the next 50 years? Like, I think if you have that information, guys, they're like, sure, I'll buy that shit. Like,
Yeah.
great. I think for us, like, we need to have that information. Again, sometimes it's too much, but I
Yeah.
did like I think it's called 3x4 genetic testing just to see. I wanted to understand like how I am detoxing
Yeah.
specifically and if there's ways that I should be doing more sauna or introducing like a little bit more support for myself in that way, mainly because my mom had breast cancer and thyroid cancer. And like, how can I do some of these preventative measures?
Yeah. Absolutely.
But I want to ask, what is your favorite diagnostic tool for the nutrition and like nutrient deficiencies?
Yeah. So I usually, to be honest, I usually will just tell people to go to their PCP and get tested because it's covered by insurance. And
Oh, awesome.
yeah, and depending on whatever condition they have, I'll give them a list of biomarkers. Usually right off the bat, it's like just CRP to check for low-grade inflammation, B12, homocysteine, zinc copper ratio, magnesium, like thyroid antibodies, and I'm like vitamin D, and I'm like just go to your doc and just get these tested. They'll be covered by insurance, and you don't need to order that $400 test, to see. Just get and then that way they also form that relationship with their PCP where it's like, this is what I want to get tested every time I come to see you. And this is a
Mhm.
really good way for them to monitor how they're doing health wise, inflammation, nutrient deficiencies. And it just becomes this relationship where they go every year or every 6 months, they get this tested, exactly what to look for.
Oh, great. So that's a good example of how you work with someone's care team and you're that piece of the puzzle that is like, okay, here's how we're getting the testing and looking at you from like a macro perspective and I can come in and get in on the weeds to help you with the basics.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I love that. Where are you seeing that women are falling short in terms of some of those deficiencies? Like, are there 3 that you see pretty commonly?
Yeah, definitely like an iron panel, like ferritin is
Mm.
so low. This is where it's like the conventional range will say, oh, if you're, I think, below like 20, you're okay. But we're seeing that a lot of the research is pointing to you want a ferritin level around 70 to work adequately. So that's one big one I'm seeing. Vitamin D, definitely still seeing that deficiency. Optimal range is definitely in that 70 to 80 range. And a lot of women are still, if they're not supplementing the adequate dose, are falling short with vitamin D. The other one is magnesium. That's another one where it's really difficult to get through our diet just because the soil quality has just been so depleted of minerals. So that's another one. That's it.
Yeah.
The other one is selenium.
Mm.
That's a big one.
My favorite selenium hack is 2 Brazil nuts a
Yes.
day. Are you a big Brazil nut gal?
I love my Brazil nuts.
Yeah, they're not, like, particularly exciting
Yeah.
taste-wise for me, but I just take them like a supplement. They're actually in our supplement
I love
drawer, so I just, like, take them in the
it.
morning.
Yeah. And it's perfect.
Can you overdo it with the selenium?
You can. So
Okay.
it's so interesting. Usually with plant-based sources, it's hard to overdo it on a
Mhm.
nutrient, but selenium is an exception. It's just there's such high content within a Brazil nut, so you really don't want to eat more than 2 a day because then you can just overdose.
And
Yeah.
what happens if you overdose on selenium?
So your thyroid is so sensitive to all these
Ooh.
minerals and vitamins.
Mhm,
One
mhm,
example is like iodine. So there was this
mm.
phase all over like about like sea moss because it's like super mineral rich and everyone was eating sea moss, but it's very
Thank
high.
you to, Kourtney Kardashian, I feel
Yeah,
like.
but it's very high in iodine. So if that iodine is too high, it actually has a detrimental impact on your thyroid function. So
Mm.
you have to be so sensitive. Same thing with selenium, you don't want to overdo it. Same thing with zinc and copper. If you overdo it on copper, it negatively impacts zinc because they fight for the same inhibitor. So it's very important to have a balance intake. So yeah, not overdoing it. And I always tell people like save your money, relax your nervous system. You don't have to overdo it. Less is more in a lot of cases. So you don't need to supplement with everything.
So, folks that are just blindly taking a multi or just vitamin D or now creatine. Should we be testing our creatine levels? Like, is that something that we should be doing? And I guess how often should we be testing our deficiencies to make sure that we're in line or we're not? I had an example where I, by accident, was doing one dropper full of vitamin D instead of one drop.
Yeah. Those doctors all me.
So, how do we mitigate that confusion or
Yeah.
us doing sort of detrimental things to our body?
Yeah, I definitely would say every 6 months, go to your PCP and get those things tested. Like all your whole nutrient profile, complete blood count.
Mhm.
Just really just monitor those things to make sure that you're doing okay. You're not overdoing it on B12 is a common thing people overdo because they'll be like, "Oh my god, I'm so deficient. Let me start eating, beef liver capsules, but then I'm also taking a B complex and that B12 can get really high really quick."
Mm.
So, definitely would say monitor every 6 months, every year, preferably every 6 months to see how you're doing.
Because you can overdo, I think, a lot of these, right? Like, I'm hearing more and more from, medical staff and clinicians that, like, people are in the ER with liver issues because they're just, like, overdoing it with supplements.
Yeah, supplements, herbs, curcumin is one that's I've seen a lot. A lot of people end up in because they're overdoing it on curcumin, which is the active
Wow.
ingredient of turmeric. B12 for sure. Vitamin D, I would say it's hard to reach the 100, but people get really, really close. If you're taking, because I have people who are very deficient, like they have vitamin D levels in like the
Mhm.
tens or the teens, and then they'll be taking, the high dose vitamin D for much longer than they need to, plus a supplement, and then they get really high. So, yeah, very important to check these levels, especially when you're supplementing at high doses to make up for deficiencies. Go back, get checked, and then reduce how much you're taking once you kind of reach a good baseline.
Okay, that's really helpful.
Yeah.
I just want to ask you some questions that I think women are constantly talking about right now and just how, from a nutrition standpoint, we can help them. So, one is just a very general question, but like fruit and produce, you were mentioning the soil is not as, nutrition dense. So, we're trying to eat more fruits and vegetables, but where can we source the right fruits and vegetables? Because I'm getting Driscoll's strawberries every day at Whole Foods and they are moldy on day two. And then also, how should we be washing them to make sure that we're, reducing pesticides and heavy metals and all that good stuff?
Yeah. So one thing I do love is like I love this concept of eating seasonally.
Mhm.
Produce that's in season is going to be the most nutrient dense because they're picking it when it's ripe. It's not long travel routes. A good tip is like produce that's in season is also the stuff that's on sale at the grocery store. So just take advantage of that and buy the stuff on sale. When it comes to organic, I've really changed how I feel about this recently. So I met a lot of people who are in agriculture and farming, and they say like the organic label is very, very expensive. So it's kind of just it's become this privilege that if you are a farm that's backed by these corporations and have the money to pay for it, you can afford to get the organic label. It's also not regulated. I do believe that they do have less pesticides than non-organic produce, but it's definitely not you have to buy everything organically. I always say, EWG, the Environmental Working Group, comes out with the Dirty Dozen list. If you can get those organic, great. If you can't, don't worry about it. Not the end of the world. When it comes to washing produce, baking soda has shown to remove, I think it's close to 90% of pesticides. So just in a large bowl, dump your fruit in there, 1 tablespoon of baking soda, let that sit for 10 minutes, and then just rinse it. And you could feel very good about eating that fruit, not be too concerned about pesticides or anything like that. Same thing with berries, because this happens all the time. I notice when you wash them, dry them, then put them in a container, they last a lot longer. But
Mhm.
for the longest time, I was just like, I'm just going to buy frozen berries because they go bad in a
Right,
day.
right.
It's just not worth it.
I mean, my kids literally will go through, I think this is like
Yeah.
common for a lot of folks. They'll go through berries, like, and I'll get all the fruit. They'll eat
Yeah.
it in one day. And I'm like, great. One, it's expensive. And then two, if we do have anything lingering, it goes bad so quickly.
Yeah.
What are you storing your fruit and veggies in?
Yeah, so I try to just when I come home from the grocery store, wash them. I do the baking soda rinse. I just set them out on the counter, let them dry, and then I'll just put them into the fridge. I'm also a big fan of getting frozen veggies. It makes life easier, quicker, and
Mhm.
it's like I do a lot of stir fry, so you just frozen right from the freezer, right into the pan and cook them. But with all my fresh veggies, I try to wash them, dry them, and then store them in the fridge.
Great. For the frozen veggies, is it true that they are frozen at peak ripeness?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm. Great. Yeah. So that's also wonderful. Berries, I feel like I taste it the most. Like, the blueberries are just sweeter when they're
Yeah.
frozen. Not as fun to eat, but like great in like yogurt or chia
Mhm.
seed pudding.
Or a
Right.
smoothies, whatever else.
Yeah. All this.
But yeah, like we also go through a ton of broccoli.
Yeah.
Like getting frozen broccoli is amazing. And it actually, like when you roast it, there's no difference.
You can't tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about just are there any tips for herbs and spices that maybe you always throw this into your stir fry or your yogurt or something that like little things that women can do on a daily basis?
Yeah. So I love herbs and spices. They're such
Mhm.
an undervalued powerhouse. They're so rich in antioxidants. They have all these like antimicrobial and antiviral benefits to them. I always tell women just go to the grocery store and just buy whatever herb you like or want. Sometimes you're in like a parsley mood or a cilantro or dill, and I love making like a sauce out of it. So I'll just take extra virgin olive oil, I'll wash the herb, couple cloves of garlic, some lemon, and you just make like this like everyday everything sauce that you could just pour on
Yum.
thing. And it's so easy. It really preserves the herb and you get like extra virgin olive oil is so great for you, so rich in antioxidants and polyphenols.
Mhm.
And it's a great source of dietary fat, so it's like a great fat source to go with all your meals and just a ton of flavor as well.
Can you explain to our audience what polyphenols are and why those are beneficial?
Yeah, so there's these class of molecules called antioxidants, and basically in your body, just through just regular processes, cellular, all of that stuff, you get this oxidative stress or free radicals that get created, and you can avoid it. It just comes from your environment, from your body just doing what it needs to do. Antioxidants help to quench those free radicals. So you need to make sure that you're getting them in your diet. One of a class of an antioxidant is a polyphenol, and olive oil is a type of polyphenol. Blueberries have anthocyanins, which are really, really great fruits. So these are just really beneficial for reducing inflammation, getting rid of all of that oxidative stress in our body. And yeah, just amazing for your health overall. And like everything, diversity is important. So getting, blueberries and olive oil and green tea and all of these different antioxidant classes that really help to support our body, reduce inflammation and just make everything just work better.
Question on the green tea, because I feel like, people talk about green tea for cancer prevention and that sort of thing. Like, what is the dosage of green tea you should be having on a daily basis? And is that the same thing as matcha?
Yeah. So green tea is not as potent as matcha when it comes to the antioxidant that it has. Because with matcha, they're grinding up the whole leaf and you're drinking the whole thing. Green tea, you're just kind of, are you okay? Oh, no,
Okay.
that's okay. I just want to make sure you're okay.
Yeah.
Green tea is not, but so the dosage kind of varies. So
Mhm.
when it comes to lowering LDL cholesterol, 3 cups of green tea has shown to really prevent the oxidation of LDL cholesterol. That's a lot of green tea for a day, but if it's something you enjoy, that's wonderful. A little tip with green tea is like vitamin C helps to increase the antioxidant content of green tea. So you can either squeeze a little lemon in your green tea, you can have it with like a kiwi or an orange or something that's rich in vitamin C. But that's like a great synergistic relationship between food is like vitamin C and green tea to increase the
Mhm.
antioxidant content of it.
Cool. I feel like I'll be 39 tomorrow. Thank you. But we like a lot of friends in my sort of age bracket or in their 40s, like they're starting to see their LDL tick up.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's like perimenopause or what that could be.
Yeah.
But so how do you address that with nutrition? Or
Yeah.
can you?
Yeah, absolutely. LDL is sensitive to dietary and lifestyle things. One thing I would just say off the bat is LDL is not a really good predictor for cholesterol. I would say if it's really high, you want to check particle size and particle numbers. So LDL particle number and particle size to really assess your risk. But if your LDL is creeping up a little bit, so if it's like, 100 is good. If it's like 120, 130, I wouldn't be too concerned if your blood sugar is good and your HDL cholesterol is good. So one thing, don't panic if it's like rising a little bit. The other thing, there's a lot you could do dietarily. So what you want to do is increase soluble fiber. Things like chia seed, basil seeds, psyllium husk are very effective at reducing LDL cholesterol. Easy to incorporate into your day. I love starting the morning with just like 1 teaspoon of basil seeds. They're very similar to chia seeds, but they just bloom in water with just like a little lemon and ginger. And it just kind of great dose of soluble fiber in the morning. The lemon and ginger helps to stimulate digestive enzymes but great way to get that soluble fiber. Another thing you can do is like 1/2 teaspoon, and you want to slowly increase fiber because if you do it too much, you're going to get bloated. But 1/2 teaspoon of psyllium husk added to water before lunch and dinner. One, that helps with your blood sugar because you're getting that fiber start. And two, that really helps with lowering your LDL cholesterol.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah. The other thing is what drives your LDL is refined carbohydrates and added sugar. So kind of staying away from like those really simple white bread, everything that's kind of been stripped, white grains that's been stripped away of all its fiber and nutrients, and things with high fructose corn syrup or tons of added sugar that you want to stay away from. The other thing that's cool is like there's these components called plant sterols, which mimic your LDL and prevents absorption in the gut. So things like pistachio, chickpeas, legumes are really beneficial for lowering LDL cholesterol. So whenever I have someone who has elevated LDL cholesterol, I'm like, start eating pistachios and sunflower seeds every day. Get in that soluble fiber. Soluble fiber is also in apples and pears with the skin. Slowly start adding that psyllium husk, and you'll see a sharp decline in your LDL.
Amazing. Are there any side effects to psyllium husk?
If you increase it too quickly, definitely you'll experience bloating. So I always say slow and steady, like really, start with like 1/4 of a teaspoon, add it to water, and just really see how your body is adjusting to it. But
Mhm.
steady is very important.
What
Um,
about for us constipated girlies
yeah. I think basil seeds are amazing for constipation. It's just
and
like,
better than chia?
yeah. So it's not that I just like it because I feel like it blooms in the water quicker and better. So it just
Mhm.
feels like it's easier to go down. I would
Okay.
say one is better than the other. They have different nutrient profiles. So like you could alternate, that would be great. But that is wonderful. Another little tip for constipation, two kiwis. I love the sun gold kiwi because you can eat it with the skin because the skin is
Mm.
thin. Two kiwis at night because it contains a component that increases melatonin production. But two kiwis at night, one for the fiber, two, it has this enzyme which really helps with constipation. So highly recommend if you have constipation.
Great, so how does that counteract, like, don't eat before bed sort of thing?
I know. Yeah, see, I just eat it like right after dinner. So you still,
Okay, so I'm not, like, in bed eating my
yeah,
kiwis.
no, on your bedside
'Cause
table.
I would be up in here literally just, like, eye mask on eating my gold
Yeah.
kiwis. Okay, great. So 2 golden kiwis right
Yes,
after dinner,
right after
skin on.
skin on
Okay,
really does the trick.
love
The
it.
undervalued constipation hack is like abdominal massage for constipation. You could do
Mhm,
tube it, but just that physical movement really helps
mhm.
getting things moving.
I like for me, like, I love the I love you, ILU massage,
Yes.
but it doesn't always work. I think my body is like, "We've seen this
Yeah,
before."
switch it up on us. Give us something new.
Not today.
Not a
Not today. So what about folks that are, using GLP-1s,
mhm.
because this is a big topic
Yeah.
when you have women that are coming to you, what are you giving them as like supplementary in terms of nutrition?
When they're on a GLP-1?
Mhm.
Yeah, so one thing is definitely you wanna make sure, so some people experience just 0 appetite, so I wanna
Mm.
make sure that they're still getting that breakfast, lunch, and they're getting adequate protein with every meal, and they're doing some type of resistance activity. If you're losing weight so rapidly, you're not just losing fat, you're also losing muscle, and your muscle is like a really strong metabolic, and so you're gonna be worse, your metabolism's gonna be worse off when you go off of it if you lose a lot of muscle. That's why women gain a lot of weight also perimenopause, menopause is because they're losing a lot of muscle. So definitely be mindful
Mm.
of protein, not just protein, eat balanced meals with fiber and fat and complex carb. But be mindful of protein, be mindful of eating balanced meals and getting nutrients in, because some people become very nutrient deficient because they're like, I'm just not hungry. I don't think about it. So I'm eating like one meal a day, and that one meal a day is like a protein bar. Making sure that you are eating balanced meals and you are doing some form of resistance activity. This doesn't have to be like you going to the gym. It could be just, go on YouTube and like Gabby George has great arm workouts, 7 minutes, do those, but some type of resistance activity. So you are giving some energy and love to your muscles and supporting them.
I'll have to look Gabby George up because
She's
typically if I have 10 minutes and I'm with my kids, I'm like, I don't know if you've ever heard of Danny Go.
No.
Look it up. It
Yeah.
is a YouTuber who
Yeah.
does songs and dances, but it like encourages active movement. So you're
Amazing.
like the floor is lava or you're running. I don't know why you're running away from flamingos or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's been my go-to, but I need some lifting.
Oh my God, Gabby George is great. It's like 7 minutes, but you feel it. Like like you
I love
feel
that.
it's getting stronger. She's amazing.
Um, and back on the sort of losing muscle aspect for perimenopause and menopause, women that feel like now I have like belly fat or I feel like my metabolism is slowing.
Yeah.
How do you work with them to introduce? Is it, a complete shift in diet or how do you assess them?
Yeah, it's really the most important thing is meeting people where they're at. So really
Mhm.
seeing like what is this woman eating on a daily basis and how can we improve it? So maybe they're not prioritizing enough fiber in their diet, which I see in most people. So slowly increasing fiber and increasing the fiber that's really going to help to support, you know, their liver. Liver is like an organ I see that's always impacted in women later in life, regardless of if they drink or if they do it. It gets overburdened as we age. So that's really important. And it's a lot of resistance to weight loss is tied to heavy liver burden. So just getting in the right fiber to support their liver. One food I love is broccoli sprouts, just super easy to get into the diet, really high in sulforaphane, amazing for your liver.
And you tell me, I'm laughing because I started to get broccoli sprouts
Hmm.
and I'm putting them in our like we love an arugula salad with pine nuts
Yeah.
and like a tahini, lemon, olive oil, sea
Yeah.
salt, little maple syrup dressing. So I've been throwing them in there, but my husband like opened the package and he's like, "This is the only lettuce you got? Like, you're gonna eat the whole thing?" And then you just like throw it on top. You throw it
Yeah.
on a salad, throw it
Yeah.
on your avocado toast. So like, are you supposed to eat the whole package? Like, where are the benefits? How many sprouts are we talking?
Yeah, so I'm talking just like a handful, like just a little
Okay.
handful. You just really chew it down. But yeah, I know. It's like
Can you
it's like
overdo it? Like, what if I ate the whole package?
no, you can't overdo it. I think you're
Okay.
fine. But they're actually really, really easy to make. You just get these like sprouting jars from Amazon and it's just a mason with a little lid with a net on it, but just 1 tablespoon of broccoli seeds in it. And you just have to add water to it every day, let it drain. And in five
Okay.
days, you have a jar full of broccoli sprouts. It's so, so easy to make.
That's so fun.
Yeah, I think your kids will really
Oh
enjoy it.
my god.
It's
My
like,
son, yes, he has like a little garden box on the deck and he's like an herb lover. So he has like last year his basil was like out of control
oh
and
my
he was
God, that's adorable.
gifting anyone that came to our door. He'd be like, "Do you want some basil?"
Oh my God, that's so cute.
So I think that would be great. And he loves broccoli, so we'll
Yeah,
just get him on the sprouts.
he'll love it.
So back to sort of the fiber point, like, so the psyllium husk and the basil seeds that you were mentioning earlier, I assume that's also great for women to introduce in that stage.
Wonderful, yeah.
So are there any indications for using those?
No, no, I would just again, like, slow and steady. It takes your body time to adjust. So
Mhm,
when I have some people who are eating
mhm,
0 fiber and they just load up on the psyllium husk, they do experience bloating, like really bad bloating. So just give your body like time
mhm,
to adjust to this. So I always say like if someone's barely eating fiber, I'm just like just add like one vegetable or one, fruit to your meal. So like,
mhm,
you're eating lunch, just grab an English cucumber and eat it with it or whatever vegetable that you enjoy and like, radishes, carrots,
mhm,
some zucchini, whatever you enjoy, but slowly just add vegetables to each meal. And diversity is really important. So
mhm,
I always tell people you kind of want one kind of fiber in each category. Like you want a leafy green, you want a cruciferous vegetable, which is like your broccoli, your cabbage, your cauliflower, your bok choy. you want like these brightly pigmented vegetables like your zucchini, your peppers, things like that. You want prebiotic fibers. So like, your onion, your garlic, your leeks, your jicama, your asparagus. So just try to get a little diversity. So I always tell people when you go to the grocery store, just kind of, be like, oh, I had like white button mushrooms. Maybe I'll do shiitake this week.
Mm.
Just like in your head, just trying to think. It doesn't have to be perfect by any means, but just in your head, be like, oh, I had this last week. Let me just grab, if I had spinach one week, let me grab like Swiss chard or something different to give it a little diversity.
That's something that I really need to keep in mind, and I would say probably most folks, like, we get the same stuff at Whole Foods or Trader Joe's or wherever you shop, and, like, we literally get the same items.
Yeah, you just kinda get used to it and you like what you like, and it just becomes
Mhm.
like this autopilot thing. But if you just it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to keep track of it and be like, "Oh, I haven't had Swiss chard in a month." It's just like when you go to the grocery store, just be like, "Oh, you know what? We had a lot of dill last week. Well, maybe I'll do a little parsley this week." Or, maybe I'll try this dandelion greens, which they're very bitter, they're very good for you, but just give it a try and see if you like it. I also really like Misfit Market or any of these subscriptions
Oh, yeah.
where it's like you kinda like, you don't
Mhm,
have a lot of say in what you get, so it's a really nice way to explore new
mhm.
vegetables that you just wouldn't gravitate towards. So that's a nice way to get introduce a little diversity into your diet as well.
And I'm sure there's like, when you were saying, the misfit market, because I remember that being in New York, and you would
Yeah,
get, the oddly shaped potato
yeah.
or something, or the two-headed radish, which is incredible. I was actually saying to my husband this morning, because I'm like, we need to find local farms that,
Yes.
if it's not convenient for us to go there, that we can actually like, do they have a service that can deliver? Because during COVID, we did that in New York, and it was incredible because we would just get this bounty
Yeah.
in the city where it's just so much better and it's fresh, and you're just sort of, you don't get to pick. So that you're
Yeah.
just like, oh, great. I'm going to introduce this into my diet. And to your point earlier, it's in season. And so maybe we can round up some good sources for the gals on like where to get some of that fresh produce.
Yes. I think Fresh Direct does it where it's like a local farm. They give you the deliver,
Oh,
like,
wow.
yeah. Because I know I ordered from them a couple weeks ago and they had
Yeah.
this farm in Pennsylvania, Lancaster Farms, and they had, get your like vegetable mystery box. And it was great. Like I used turnips for the first time. It was
Fun.
really good.
Yeah.
And I also get in like a cooking rut where I'm just kind of like making the same thing. So this is a great way to introduce diversity where I'm like, oh, this will be a new vegetable I add into like the rotation.
I love that. Another sort of question on, you were talking about nervous system. I would say most women suffer from some amount of anxiety. Are there foods that, or supplements after the fact, like if they feel like they're eating correctly,
Yeah.
that can help mitigate that?
Yeah. So with anxiety, depression, everything, there's always this physiological component. So common deficiencies that are linked with it are definitely magnesium, B12, vitamin D, omega 3. Omega 3 is really helpful. Zinc. So those like right off the bat, vitamin D, omega 3 usually always have to supplement. Same with magnesium. Zinc, B12, those just test and see if you're deficient, see if we can bring it up to help you. The other thing that really leads to a lot of anxiety is blood sugar dysregulation. So your blood sugar and cortisol are very tightly linked. If your blood sugar gets elevated, cortisol increases to regulate blood sugar.
Mhm.
So, I just tell women just try to get in the habit of eating more balanced snacks and meals. So, switch to more complex carbs, like sweet potatoes or do rice or anything like that. But always be like, do I have some fiber? Do I have some protein with this meal? Do I have some fat? And fat, like I always say, get a good bottle of extra virgin olive oil and just drizzle that on every meal. It adds flavor and it gives you a great source of fat with that meal. Fiber, have easy fiber options in your fridge, cucumbers, radishes, things that you just kind of grab and add to your plate. But that is very tightly linked to anxiety. So just alleviating blood sugar, regulating it can really help with anxiety as well. And then another thing I'm a huge fan of is like vagal tone exercises. So your gut and brain are they're tightly connected. You have your vagus nerve, which is your largest craniosacral nerve, and it's bidirectional. So anytime you're anxious, you feel it in your gut. And when your gut's off, you feel more anxious. So Vagal tone exercises are really easy to implement throughout the day. Any exercise where you feel like a little stimulation or vibration in your throat, like humming, singing, gargling, breathing exercise with a shorter inhale, longer exhale are super, super helpful. So, if you're just working and you're at home, you're not in an office, or if you are in an office and you feel comfortable singing or humming, like go for it. It really helps strengthen that vagal tone. And then just taking you just need 10 minutes a day of these exercises. So,
Mhm.
I like to do it throughout the day, like 3 or 4 minute breaks. You just go sit down somewhere away from your desk and just breathe for 5 minutes. I like to do it before meals because it's like a good reminder. When you are in your parasympathetic nervous system, which you get by just doing some deep breathing, it increases stomach acid production. So you digest your food a lot better as well. So lots of benefits, and they're just so tightly regulated. And once you build the habit of oh, I'm just going to take 5 deep belly breaths before I eat, it just becomes a just a part of your life, like a part of your day. You're just I'm just going to take 5 deep belly breaths. I'm going to look at my food when I'm eating. I'm going to chew my food, and you digest better. You're in your rest and relax nervous system. So just some small tweaks that really help. When it comes to the herbal or the supplements with autoimmune disease, you want to be careful with ashwagandha, rhodiola, because they can be immune stimulant. So sometimes they have a negative effect on autoimmune disease. I do love L-theanine. It's an amino acid. It's also present in matcha, and that's why matcha, compared to coffee, you have kind of that more stable energy, but really helpful for calming the nervous system and also helping you to focus. So that's one that I love.
That's interesting. I hadn't heard about the ashwagandha impact on autoimmune before because I've taken ashwagandha when I was in my fertility prep,
Yeah.
but that's interesting. One last question, and then we could talk a little bit about autoimmune. So everyone seems to be talking about histamine issues. So I'm, of course, like, do I have histamine issues?
I
What does that mean? And why is everyone suddenly talking about it?
Yeah, so histamine it's a normal part of our immune system, just like inflammation. It's bad when there's too much of it. But it is something that is produced by our immune cells called mast cells and basophils, and it is an important part of our immune system. It's also acts as a neurotransmitter. It's involved in a lot of things. It's involved in immune regulation. It produces stomach acid. It's kind of just pervasive around our body. They started talking about histamine a lot more post-COVID because a lot of the symptoms associated with histamine overload are tightly linked with COVID. It's like fatigue, it's brain fog, it's, tachycardia, it's POTS, it's MCAS. So there's a lot of overlap between all of those symptoms. So it's very easy to look at someone and be like, you have fatigue, maybe you have histamine overload. Another thing I will note is there's still yet no universally accepted diagnostic criteria for it. So I think a lot of people think they have histamine issues without being properly checked or addressed to see if they actually do. And because the symptoms overlap with so many things like IBS, anxiety, POTS, people get
Low
misdiagnosed, or they
ferritin,
low
probably.
ferritin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they might think they have it because they have these symptoms, but they might actually just have, low ferritin, or they might actually have POTS, or they might have IBS. The way I approach it is instead of, going on a low histamine diet and taking out all of these foods, your histamine is, there's two enzymes that produce it. One of them is your DAO enzyme, which is in your gut, and your gut is responsible for getting rid of excess histamine, and your liver is also responsible for getting rid of excess histamine. I always start with supporting the liver, supporting your gut health, and seeing if that improves things. Your DAO enzyme that's responsible for breaking down histamine needs a lot of nutrients, vitamin C, B, quercetin. So making sure that those are adequately present in that person's diet so that their body is supported to reduce excess histamine. Most of the time people feel better, but it's a lot of underlying issues. Like that person usually has some IBS, they usually have some form of anxiety. It's very tightly regulated to the nervous system. So usually when you kind of go through all these things, you do see improvements, but there has just been a lot of more conversations and research around it post-COVID. And I think that's why we're seeing it a lot more, is just because it's just being talked about more. And because it's being talked about more, it's just one of those things when you go to the doctor and you're presenting with all these symptoms, they're like, it might be due to histamine issues. And it might be, but I think it's important not to overdiagnose without adequate testing and knowing if that person actually does have histamine issue. Because I see a lot of people doing low histamine diets, and you're getting rid of a lot of healthy food through the low histamine diet. So before we do that, I'm like, let's just support the underlying organ system to see if that's the issue or if histamine is actually an issue.
What and just to clarify, so the histamine issue, like, are you having an allergic reaction to it, or, like, do you feel that way? And then what foods are high in histamines?
Yes. Basically, you have your MCAS cells, mast cells
Mhm,
that produce histamine, and it's
mhm,
necessary for the immune system. If you do have an allergic reaction, it's normal to see a slight uptick in it. Doesn't mean you have histamine issue, it just means that your immune system is responding adequately to what's going on in the environment.
mhm.
It becomes an issue when your body can't adequately remove the excess histamine or your mast cells are overactivated, so then they're just producing a lot more histamine. And sometimes that's linked to just the enzymes that's responsible for breaking down the histamine is just not adequately supported. And sometimes it's because your gut's a mess and it's just a immune dysregulation issue that's
Got
occurring.
it.
The foods that are rich in histamine are like fermented foods, which are great for your guts.
Yeah.
Canned foods, so some things like sardines, which are really good for your health, tomatoes, coffee, alcohol, which is fine if you cut that out, vinegar. Those are the very high histamine foods. And
Mm,
then there's some high histamine vegetables as well. But those are usually the foods that if you do have histamine issues, we're kind of
mhm.
really getting all of those out. Fermented foods, vinegar, alcohol, coffee, canned foods, bone broth, broths, those are all out.
Bone broth.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know.
okay.
Yeah.
All, like but why is that? Like, all of these gut-friendly foods
No.
be impacting the histamine
Yeah,
load.
they're just very rich. They're just very histamine reactive. So when you eat these foods, you just get this histamine reaction. But again, I always usually, just getting some nutritional support to help support the DAO enzyme with B6, C, and some quercetin really helps people. And then, giving the gut and liver some support. So more prebiotic fibers. Honestly, even if I suspected, I usually doing a little bit of probiotic rich foods, just a little bit to see how they react to it. And glutamine and zinc carnosine just to help with the gut lining support, which are safe.
Yeah. How do you feel about coconut cult?
Coconut, I like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's like this cure all be all that everyone does. I don't think you need to buy it's expensive. It's like $18 a jar or something like I don't know. I
I
don't know
d
what it costs.
I
It's
mean, bless it. I didn't even look. I put it in my Whole Foods delivery cart, so
yeah.
let's hope my husband doesn't listen to this episode.
But, I think it is I think, you know, they just added probiotics to coconut yogurt. It does have, like, that tart taste, and, people will eat it before they eat a meal, which is a nice thing, but you can also, eat sauerkraut, eat kefir. With probiotics, again, diversity is really important, so you wanna get all of the different strains. So you
Mm,
want sauerkraut, you want kefir, you want, like, kimchi, so the more diversity you have, more diverse, like, bacterial species that you'll get into your diet. So I would say, like, if someone's just doing coconut cult for their probiotic, I would say switch it up. Same thing when people are on, like, they'll be on, like, seed probiotic for, like, years. I'm like, switch it up. And probiotics is not something that you need every day. It really should be used as, like, a replenishment. So you have to go on antibiotics, go on a probiotic to replenish, but it shouldn't be a forever thing. It should really be just a replenishment, and then you're getting those probiotics through your diet,
mhm.
just probiotics, but also prebiotic fiber in your diet, the polyphenols that we talked about. So just getting fiber into your diet to support your gut. But probiotic is not something that should be I always take a probiotic every day.
Okay. That's really helpful.
Yeah.
So back to autoimmune for a moment.
Yeah.
Why do you think autoimmune is just affecting women? I think it's like 90% of autoimmune conditions are with females.
Yeah.
Why is that? And then, in your practice, what autoimmune conditions are you seeing the most?
Yeah. So definitely one reason, so there's no confirmed known answer, but one thing that they have seen is like women get diagnosed with autoimmune a lot when they're going through some type of hormonal shift in their
Mm,
So it could
mhm.
be puberty, a lot with perimenopause, postpartum, like you experienced. So these hormonal shifts definitely have been linked to autoimmune disease. And it's just because your hormones are doing so much in your body and it's a shift, it's a change. That's why I always tell women, like, postpartum or perimenopause, let's monitor this instead of going on medication right away, just to see how this autoimmune activity is occurring with these hormonal shifts. Another thing is like, your nervous system is tightly regulated with your immune health. Women in general just carry a larger emotional burden, so that is definitely a contributing factor. Like I saw something that said, if women just like flipped over tables every once in a while, there would be less autoimmune disease. And I think that is definitely a contributing factor, anxiety and just being in that sympathetic nervous system constantly because you're just worried about
Mhm.
everyone and everything definitely leads to it. But there is a tightly linked association with hormonal fluctuations and autoimmune disease, like the occurrence of it.
That's confusing to me what you said about the flipping tables because I think perimenopause specifically, there's a lot of rage
Yeah.
and a hormonal thing because I almost took down a TSA agent
Yeah.
recently. But why do they think that like the hormonal fluctuations are causing this?
So anytime you have like a shift in your hormones,
Mhm.
it's going to impact your immune system.
Oh,
So,
I see. Okay.
so
And
you
which is in your gut.
which is in your gut,
Okay.
which is gonna infect immune. So, similar to how, like, the infections like COVID, Epstein-Barr is a common trigger for a lot of
Mm.
disease, it just changes your immune system, increases inflammation in the body. Same thing with your hormones changing, it just if it tightly regulated with your immune system. So, we're gonna see a shift.
So, knowing that it is, we can, to some extent, if we know genetics wise, if we know most times it could be around these hormonal shifts, how can we prevent autoimmune? Is there, like, if we know, for me, when I was pregnant, is there anything I could have done to prevent that?
Yeah, so I think, like, one thing is just eating well-balanced blood sugar regulated meals. The other thing is vitamin D and omega-3 are really huge players in immune modulation. They switch your immune system from an pro-inflammatory state to an anti-inflammatory state, so just
Mhm.
making sure that you're getting, your vitamin D levels are in the right range, that you're getting omega-3s in your diet, and that's in the right range. The other thing is checking for nutrient deficiencies like zinc, copper, magnesium, iron, ferritin, all of those things you definitely want to check for. Other than that, like, just movement, breathing exercises, just not being too strict with your diet, but just
Mhm.
trying to get nutrient dense meals into your 80% of the time, checking for nutrient deficiencies, but definitely the vitamin D and the omega-3 players when it comes to immune modulation.
Okay. And do you feel now that you've gone through Hashimoto's and then because of your practice, like, do you think that some autoimmune conditions are reversible?
So I think instead of using the word like reversible, I
Mhm.
think they can be in like you a state where you're not worried about it progressing to actual organ damage. So with Hashimoto's, it's an autoimmune of the thyroid gland. You want to get it to a state where, the attack on your thyroid isn't bad enough where you're eventually going to get hypothyroidism.
Mhm.
So getting your thyroid peroxidase antibodies under 100 is like a good goal to have where women or most men and women don't experience symptoms from that, and then the attack on your thyroid isn't so severe where it's going to develop into hypothyroidism. These autoimmune conditions like Hashimoto's are the number one cause for hypothyroidism, where your thyroid organ is so damaged that you need to go on medication to help it work and regulate it. So that is a good goal, is just getting it into a state where you're not worried about it progressing to its final stage.
Have you seen any women that were on synthetic hormones that were able to come off of them?
Yeah, I've seen women titrate off to very low doses.
Mhm.
So I've definitely seen. I always, with everything, it's like slow and steady. So we'll do what we do together. And then I'll say in 6 months, let's get you tested and see where your thyroid's at. But I've seen significant drops in women I mean, just by sometimes just by cutting gluten out and blood sugar regulation and fixing for nutrient deficiencies significantly drops their thyroid levels.
So that's what I was going to ask about gluten. If you have any sort of autoimmune, are you 100% that you need to stop eating gluten?
No, so it's tightly regulated with Hashimoto's and MS. That's where you
Mhm.
get the most. It's not every autoimmune disease by any means, but
Mhm.
I do see like most people do benefit from going off of gluten, whether it's gut
Mhm.
issues or autoimmune. And that's good for multiple
Mhm.
reasons. It's, you know, gluten is heavily sprayed in this country. And if you look at gluten molecule today compared
Yeah.
to generations ago, you can't even compare. They're so dissimilar because they've just hybridized the wheat so much that it's hard for most of our bodies to actually eat it in a healthy way. With Hashimoto's and MS specifically, there's this concept of molecular mimicry where your immune system doesn't work with such specificity. So the protein in gluten resembles your thyroid. So when you eat that gluten, it increases the attack on your thyroid gland because it's
Mm.
as non-self, and then it just increases that inflammatory cascade. So I always tell women, we're just gonna cut gluten out for at least 90 days, and then we'll reintroduce it and see how you feel. And if you did feel better or if you feel okay when we add it back in. An important thing to note with gluten-free is that there's so many gluten-free products out there that are heavily processed. So some
Mhm.
people will go gluten-free, but they're eating these really heavily processed gluten products, and they might even feel worse. So you have to be really careful whether eating gluten or gluten-free to choose products that are not so processed, the simpler the better. So that's what for carbs, I'm just a fan of like potatoes and rice and plantains. Those are great.
Yeah. Do you have any well, 1, are you gluten-free
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
What are your favorite gluten-free like, if someone's on the go, something that's
Yeah.
gluten-free or, like God bless it, I love pizza, that's, like, my favorite food, and so that was the hardest for me when I was doing that.
Same. So I'm gonna be honest, I have not found a good gluten-free pizza that actually measures up to the real
I
thing.
mean, I was like, "Can we get Prince Street pizza
I
on the
know,
line?
I know. Can you just figure out the
Figure
gluten-free
it out,
pizza?
please."
'Cause yeah, I'm with you. That was like the hardest. That's like
Mhm.
the only thing I still really, really miss. I do like Capello's pizza. That's like
Oh, yeah, okay.
a decent choice. But I just feel like it's not pizza. I eat it, I'm
Mhm.
like, this is just like bread with cheese and sauce, but it's not pizza.
Right,
It's not
right.
a real thing. But I love Siete.
Oh, yeah.
I love all of their
Their
products.
tortillas are awesome.
Their tortillas, their taco shells,
Mhm.
their chips are so good.
Holds really well if you throw it on the grill.
Yes, holds so well, which is hard
Yeah,
to come by, but it holds really, really well.
yeah. Or, like, if you have a I mean, this is probably not healthy. If you throw it on the actual, like, stovetop, you
Yes.
could do it in a griddle, but, like, if you throw it directly on, then you're getting the
Oh.
butane, I guess, on your lesser of 2 evils, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Just last question about autoimmune is there an alternative to the autoimmune diet? Because you were saying that that is really restrictive. Do you think it's necessary in some cases?
So I think if you can't eat any of those foods like legumes and nightshades and all, it's not that these foods are inherently bad. It's just that you don't have the ecosystem to handle it.
Mhm,
So whenever I work with someone with autoimmune disease, we're not really implementing a certain diet. It's just I'm looking at what they currently eat, what their current day to day looks like, and we're just making tweaks along the way. We're going to improve blood sugar regulation by making sure there's some fiber with every meal,
mhm,
eventually working up to being like, half of your plate with fiber and meeting fiber
mhm,
goals and needs and everything like that. We're going to get diversity of protein. So, red meat, chicken, fish, introduce more omega-3s into their diet. We're going to supplement. So, definitely the vitamin D, omega-3, vitamin A, which people usually get through food, are like my immune modulating. Everyone should be on it.
and you can overdo it on vitamin A, right? Like, that's a big one that you need to stay away from?
Yeah, so any of these fat soluble vitamins like vitamin A, vitamin D, you got to be really careful. So I know like beef liver is really big, but it's super high. It's very nutrient dense, which is good, but it's very high in vitamin A. So for people who are eating it every day, you definitely want to steer clear of that because you can overdo it on vitamin A really quickly that way.
Mhm.
I usually do vitamin A through food. If you're eating animal protein, you're good with the vitamin A.
Okay, cool. All right, final questions. What are 3 underrated foods that you think women should be starting to introduce into their diets?
Um, Sardines.
Okay.
So, I know sardines are not, like, the most appealing, but I found a way that I really enjoy to eat them. I just mash them up with a little mustard, dill, and green onion, and then I have them on these, like, top seed crackers, and it's great. I've actually grown to really enjoy them, but they're just such a powerhouse, like, super rich in omega-3, B12, selenium. It's one of the smash fish, so it's like low in mercury but high in omega-3. So, and it's an really easy protein option for like lunch when you don't have any, when you don't have a lot
Okay.
of time.
Right.
Um, leafy greens, some variety, like whatever leafy green speaks to you, but very rich in folate, just so important for our health overall. So just
Mhm.
every day. And then the last one is probably berries. Just include them. And sun
Okay.
gold kiwis. I just have fallen in love with them recently. So
Okay,
yeah.
great. And these are just some fun questions to
Yeah.
round it out. Okay, we need to know, what is your sister face mask?
Yeah. So I can't take credit for this. It's like a very popular like South Asian face mask, but it's just I use Greek yogurt, plain Greek yogurt. It's
Mhm.
honey, whatever honey you have in the house, turmeric, a little lemon, like either rice flour or like chickpea flour. You just mix it all up and you just put it on your face and you'll see that it absorbs right into your skin. Like the yogurt will just dry. But I feel like that is the best face mask I've ever used. Like it tops any other face mask.
What does it come out like? Are you glowy? Are you hydrated? Like, what does it do?
Yeah, so the yogurt has lactic acid, so it acts as like a little bit of like a chemical, not as strong as a chemical peel, but it helps just break down dead skin cells. And so it just like cleans your face really well. The honey is so moisturizing, like it just your skin is so much softer. And the turmeric just brightens everything up. So like all of the little like hyperpigmentation or marks just kind of like go away. But your face just is like
Cool.
glowing, it's clean. It's just stuff that you have in your kitchen.
Does it have to be full fat yogurt? Like, are there any
It doesn't ha
specifics?
You can use any type of yogurt. I like the
Okay.
Greek because sometimes the regular yogurt just doesn't stay on as well. It just, like,
Yeah.
droops.
Like, do you remember in Mrs. Doubtfire where she literally has, like
Exactly. Just, like, falling, like, all
yeah.
right?
Just drops into the tea.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
just drops all over.
Um, okay, what is one trend that you found on social media that you've actually leaned into?
Okay, I'm actually really into red light. Hate to admit it, but
Okay.
really into
What's your favorite brand?
I really like the brand Bon Charge.
Okay.
I have a Joovv that I've been using. I just really enjoy the routine of it. Like, I'll just
Mhm.
kinda put it on, I'll either meditate in front of it or I'll just stretch in front of it.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's very calming. The red light is actually good for inflammation, it's good for supporting mitochondria health and all that, but I will say it's not necessary by any means. You don't need it, but I enjoy it.
Do
It's
you use it on your thyroid?
I do.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of studies that have shown that it has reduced thyroid antibody levels, and it's because it's really good for reducing inflammation and
Mhm.
supporting your mitochondria, and your mitochondria are really the fuel source for everything, so if they're depleted, they're not gonna be able to help support your body.
Okay, cool. Last thing you asked ChatGPT, Claude, whomever you talk to.
I actually asked what's going on with the weather just because it's just been insane,
So
like,
tumultuous.
it
Yeah.
was, like, I don't know, 95 degrees, and I was walking outside, and I was like, and then it was, like, 60 degrees the next day, and I was like, "What's happening? What's going on?"
Right. It has a histamine overload.
Has a load. It's dysregulated.
It's dysregulated. All right, last question. Podcast, book, or resource you would recommend to women?
Really, really love Carrie Jones. She's a naturopathic doctor. She does a lot of work with women and hormones, women in perimenopause, but I love her work. I think she's so balanced. She's fun. She's very like encouraging, not fear-mongering. So huge fan of hers. So you could check out her Instagram. She has a podcast. She's associated with Rupa Health, who I also love. But yeah, huge fan of hers.
Awesome. All right, we'll link that in the show notes.
Yeah.
Okay, this was such a fun conversation. We could go on for hours. Maybe we'll have to do a part 2 to dive in more on like specific autoimmune conditions.
Yes, I would love
But
that.
thank you for all that you're doing for women. Where can folks find you, your practice, all of the good things?
Yeah, thank you so much. People could find me on my website, sarahfunctionalnutritionist.com. They could find me on Instagram at dr.sarah.s.com. But yeah, I'd love to connect with anyone, whether it's questions or you just want to chat. Yeah, I just love meeting with the women and connecting with them.
Amazing. Well, thank you again for such an awesome chat. Guys, make sure you're subscribed to Off With Your Coat wherever you listen, and we will see you next week.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.